It's that time of the day where we jump into the business stories, and we're joined by Don Ma for Business Matters. Hi, Don.
Hey, how's it going? Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Okay, let me get started here. Japanese tech giant SoftBank Group has pledged a $100 billion investment in U.S. projects over the next 4 years. The group CEO made the announcement alongside President-elect Trump this morning at Mar-a-Lago. Trump said the investment was evidence of monumental confidence in America's future. The investment will focus on AI and related infrastructure. The goal here is to create 100,000 jobs in the AI industry. Meanwhile, the so-called Magnificent Seven is down to a chosen one for a billionaire's investment fund in the United Kingdom. Peter Hargreaves' Blue Whale Growth Fund is aggressively selling off stocks in Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, Meta, and Google's parent company Alphabet. The fund is concerned that big tech's massive spending on AI this year could result in a correction. The only company spared from Blue Whale's sell-off was NVIDIA. And a new report from the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions found Amazon dismissed data linked to quotas to elevated injury rates. The New York Times reports the committee found internal documents that show health and safety personnel recommended relaxing the enforcement of production quotas in an effort to reduce injuries. The newspaper reports senior executives ignored the recommendations. And according to the Senate investigation, injury rates at Amazon were nearly twice the average for the rest of the industry. An Amazon spokesperson denies these claims, adding that internal documents were previously found to be invalid. She says the Senate report uses out-of-date documents and unverifiable anecdotes to create a preconceived narrative. And in more Amazon news, Amazon's Teamsters Union has voted to approve strikes at 2 major warehouses in New York City. It said the decision came after Amazon missed its December 15th negotiation deadline. The Teamsters represent Amazon workers at 10 facilities around the country. In June, over 5,500 employees at its Staten Island facility joined the Teamsters and chartered Amazon Labor Union Local 1. The Teamsters said it comes amid a fight for increased wages, better benefits, and safer working conditions. And in Queens, Amazon workers at the company's largest delivery station in the city voted to approve a walkout of their own. It was unclear if negotiations were scheduled. Honeywell's aerospace unit could be soon entering its own orbit. The company said it's considering a plan to separate its high-margin aerospace business. It builds everything from engines to cockpit components. Honeywell's biggest unit by revenue has benefited from rising jet production in the last few years. Its clients include Boeing and Airbus. Analysts estimate that as a standalone aerospace business, it could be valued up to $120 billion, including debt. Google's former CEO, Eric Schmidt, is warning that artificial intelligence will soon work autonomously, and that could pose a threat. Schmidt told ABC's George Stephanopoulos that Chinese AI technology has advanced with remarkable speed.
We're soon going to be able to have computers running on their own, deciding what they want to do. And eventually you say to the computer, learn everything and do everything. And that's a dangerous point. When the system can self-improve, we need to seriously think about unplugging it. Well, I used to think we were a couple of years ahead of China, but China has caught up in the last 6 months in a way that is remarkable. The Chinese are clever, and they understand the power of a new kind of intelligence for their industrial might, their military might, and their surveillance system.
And in that interview, Schmidt also said that it's crucial for the U.S. to innovate, but also warned that current regulation related to AI is insufficient. He talked about steps that companies follow to ensure their AI do not give out harmful information, but increasing competition could potentially lead to some companies omitting these steps. Retail stores in New York can no longer sell puppies, kittens, or rabbits. The change, which started yesterday, is an effort to crack down on the mistreatment of animals in puppy mills. But those losing their businesses and jobs say they're going after the wrong enemy and that there's much more to the story. NTD Sean Marshall has more.
Retail stores in New York State can no longer sell puppies, kittens, and rabbits after December 15th, or risk penalties of up to $1,000 per violation of the new puppy mill pipeline law. The ASPCA sent us a statement for their reasoning behind supporting the law. It reads, pet stores often advertise that their animals are top quality and come from responsible breeders. But the sad reality is that these dogs are trucked in from out-of-state commercial breeding facilities, also known as puppy mills, where dogs often spend their entire lives in wire crates without adequate shelter, veterinary care, food, or socialization.
This is a money game. It's not about the animals, it's about money. It's about money.
Emilio Ortez, a manager at City Pups in Manhattan, is losing his job of over 20 years and believes the law should go after the criminals rather than shut down the retailers.
A lot of these rescues and shelters are getting dogs from places way worse than what they accuse us of, and they don't have to disclose where the dog is from. They don't have to reimburse clients for medical expenses. They could just make up some swap story. Like here, we have to tell you where the dog is from. We got to pay for your medical. All these things disincentivizes us from being the evil that they accuse us of.
Retail stores are being forced to either sell online or rebrand as humane pet supply stores and invite shelters and rescuers in to do adoption events. Ortiz says the process in the United States is nothing like the Dominican Republic, where friendly dogs on the street become part of the community.
Not once did it ever occur to people in the Dominican Republic, let's wrangle them all up, confine them in a shelter, and then threaten to kill them unless somebody gave us money for them. Not once.
The Pet Advocacy Network joined 6 New York businesses in filing a lawsuit to stop the law from passing before more consumers, animals, and local businesses are seriously harmed. But according to the Pet Advocacy Network, a judge denied that lawsuit. Mike Bober, president and CEO of the Pet Advocacy Network, told NTD that the PAN is looking at their options and have 30 days to file an appeal. He said, "We are frustrated and disappointed that Judge Tenari ignored the widely available evidence that pet sale bans don't work, and that it's a catastrophe that this would happen to the workers and businesses right before the holidays." Sean Marshall, NTD News.
And President-elect Trump recently hinted in an interview that he has a relatively lenient position on Dreamers. These are immigrants who were illegally brought to the U.S. as children. We get reactions.
I arrived from this country alone first, leaving my family in Mexico.
Roberto Lujan is a Mexican immigrant, currently selling auto parts in the United States and living with his wife and children. He says he's happy that President-elect Trump has shown signs Dreamers may be treated with relative leniency.
In many cases, they become successful. They have great jobs. In some cases, they have small businesses. Some cases, they might have large businesses.
Regarding Trump's plans for the mass deportation of criminals, Lujan believes illegal immigrants are not necessarily in that category.
I heard he talk about the illegal immigrants being criminals. But I believe that a criminal does not have nationality. If it can be any person from any country.
Lujan says he's grateful for the services of the Lozano law firm, which helped him come to America. The firm assists people such as Dreamers, even though Trump has hinted at leniency for them.
It gives me hope, because I think, we have been listening to news where we hear the words mass deportation.
Attorney Tamina Watson works with business-owning Dreamers who wish to remain anonymous. Watson says Dreamers contribute to the economy substantially.
One particular client had arrived at the age of, he was less than 10 years old, I'd say. But at this point, this person has a very important logistical business that generates over $1 million in revenue per year. This person hires, close to 100 people.
According to a recent estimate, there are about 3.4 million Dreamers in America, around 1% of the total population. Their ultimate fate is still up in the air. In 2012, then-President Obama temporarily protected Dreamers. He established the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA, program, which temporarily shields them from deportation. Lawmakers are still debating what the official U.S. policy will ultimately be.
Over in Europe, launching an $11 billion satellite project to rival Elon Musk's Starlink, the European Commission has awarded contracts to move forward with IRIS, and this is a multi-orbit array of more than 280 satellites. It's going to provide high-speed connectivity to European governments. The project was unveiled 2 years ago with the goal of providing secure communications for EU members and reviving the bloc's space sector. This is the EU's third major initiative in space. A massive rate hike is expected in Russia this week. High inflation has been exacerbated in the country by a weaker ruble due to Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine. The vast majority of economists polled by Reuters are projecting a rate hike of 200 basis points. This would bring the country's benchmark interest rate to 23%. This is the highest level in more than 2 decades. New U.S. sanctions have further weakened the ruble and fueled inflationary pressures. Consumers are seeing double-digit increases in basic foods like butter and eggs. Russia's war in Ukraine has also caused labor and supply shortages, and those costs are being passed down to consumers. The holiday shopping scramble is coming down to the wire, but in China, retail sales reported a softer November and missed forecasts. China's National Bureau of Statistics reported a 3% increase from a year ago. That's a sharp slowdown from the nearly 5% growth the month before. Soft sales underscore China's need for more aggressive stimulus from Beijing. And talking about Bitcoin, surged to a record high today. This came after President-elect Trump said he would do something great with crypto because he doesn't want China taking the lead. Here are the details.
Bitcoin just keeps heading higher. The world's top cryptocurrency hit fresh record highs above $106,000 in Asian trade Monday. That defied the predictions of some analysts who had expected a pullback after it broke through the 100,000 level. It's all about the Donald Trump effect.
Hello, Bitcoiners.
Bitcoin bounced after comments from the president-elect that suggested he could create a US Bitcoin strategic reserve, akin to its existing oil reserves. Late last week, he told CNBC that he would do something great with crypto because he didn't want China taking the lead. When asked if he planned to create a strategic reserve, he said, "Yeah, I think so. It's a move other countries have considered." Earlier this month, Russian President Vladimir Putin questioned whether state reserves needed to be held in foreign currencies and appeared to flag Bitcoin as an option. But skeptics also abound, including Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. He says Bitcoin is volatile and not used for payments or as a store of value, making it no rival to the dollar. Even so, market optimism over crypto knows few limits right now. Bitcoin is up over 50% since Trump's election win, lifted by a bet his administration will be friendly to digital assets. He's appointed crypto advocates to key positions overseeing the sector and running the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Now, inflation remains a top concern for millions of Americans in 2024. When President Trump left office, inflation was at about 1.5%. Now, as he returns, inflation is near 3%, double the rate. Since January 2021, consumer inflation has surged by 21%. Prices for essentials like electricity and bread are up 28 and 25% respectively. Wages have risen about 20%, but they're still lagging behind inflation. Real wages adjusted for rising prices remain 3% below 2021 levels. Despite easing inflation, consumer sentiment is still low. Many Americans feel they're in a recession, citing high costs of living. The University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index has improved but remains below pre-pandemic levels. While inflation has cooled, its impact continues to weigh on households. China's retail sales fell short of expectations last month as policymakers brace for more tariffs from the second Trump administration. Here's a closer look.
Chinese shoppers are giving policymakers in Beijing a headache. Monday saw a mixed bag of data on the country's economy, and retail sales were one big disappointment. They did rise, up 3.3% in November, but that was way down on the previous month and far below forecasts. And that's despite big promotions by online stores and government-subsidized trade-in programs for some sectors, including autos. The mixed figures are likely to maintain pressure on officials for more stimulus. All the more so with a second Donald Trump administration looming.
They don't like tariffs, but we're doing the tariffs.
The US president-elect has vowed to impose steep new tariffs on imports from China, threatening a big blow for the country's exporters. A years-long property crisis continues to pose a big challenge, with some 70% of household savings parked in real estate. Monday's figures showed new home prices falling again, but at their slowest pace in 17 months. But most market watchers predict a sustained recovery in real estate remains a long way off.
U.S. inflation saw another uptick in November. The Commerce Department recorded its highest rate since July. Are Americans feeling the pinch of price increases, and are they hopeful for relief during a second Trump administration? NTD Sam Wong was out on the National Mall in D.C. to hear from them.
Are you feeling the pinch of inflation right now?
Oh yes, very much so. I would say everything from rent to groceries since the last year has gone up.
I don't think it's a question, it's just a fact that it's way more expensive now than it was like 5-10 years ago. It's hard to live even off of like an $80K salary nowadays. Even then, like, you need a 2-income household.
And where are you from?
New Jersey.
Oh yeah, that's one of the more expensive states.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say we're middle class, but at this point we feel
on the lower end of that.
On the lower end of that.
So we're seeing inflation. We feel it. We fortunately are not heavily impacted by it because we're comfortable.
Compared to a lot of other economies, the U.S. economy is doing great. So I can't complain.
I guess the whole thing is that milk and gas, right? Like if milk is one price, gas should never be more than milk, but milk seems to be, it's flipping.
I don't know how people are affording housing. Thank God we bought a few years ago. We really have had to kind of watch what we're purchasing, make certain things a priority.
What kind of changes do you anticipate when Trump becomes president in this next year?
Well, as a small business owner, Mac Daddy Spuds, I hope that it goes back to like when he was first in office, like the economy seemed to be stronger.
I can expect a lot of international trade to come through.
It's going to look pretty much parallel to the previous administration of Trump.
Just a positive economy to watch inflation hopefully go down, interest rates start to drop.
There's 3 levels of the government, right? We all function together, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I read everything about the tariffs. It will get worse, a lot worse. That's what I'm thinking.
I think just like his foreign policies and his economic policies will probably do something that's going to be helping out the country.
You know, in the surrounding area, we have, over 500,000 to millions of government employees, and if they lose their jobs by the government being gutted and budget cuts, then we're going to see a whole lot of people out of work.
A lot of our friends and family, even those that voted for the other guy, have a hope that we haven't had in a very long time.
Meanwhile, parents are using Santa to make sure their kids behave this holiday season. According to a new study by C.S. Mott Children's Hospital, 1 in 4 parents are using Santa or the threat of no gifts to get their kids to correct certain behaviors. But it's not always an easy fix. Experts warn that threats can backfire, especially when parents don't follow through, and that parents should lean on each other and not be afraid of public meltdowns when they happen. The survey looked at 725 parents who have at least one child aged 1 to 5 years old. And quickly onto markets. NASDAQ today closed at a record high, and S&P 500 also rose, and this is as investors gauge the latest economic data. While looking toward the Federal Reserve's final policy announcement of the year, which is coming later this week. Most mega cap and growth stocks gained ground, with Google parent and Alphabet and Tesla up sharply. Cryptocurrency stocks rose as well. Bitcoin jumped above $107,000, continuing its rally since the U.S. presidential election. And of course, this is on expectations that the new administration will be supportive of cryptocurrencies. All right, that's it on today's Business Matters. Back to you guys.
So are you guys surprised that parents hold the threat of no Santa visiting to coerce good behavior? It seems like somewhat obvious that this study has revealed this shocker,
Yeah,
well,
right?
Now it's official because there's a study on it.
Oh yeah, it's official. Well, from personal experience, I could have told you a long time ago that that's official. Okay, I had the threat of being on the naughty list and no Christmas presents hanging over my head every December, every year when I was a kid.
Did it? Let me ask you this. Did it work to improve your behavior, not just at the end of the year, but throughout the year?
Nope, just that 1 month. But I can tell you, I was a really good kid for my parents that 1 month because I wanted those Christmas gifts. And I definitely believe that Santa was watching me at all times.
Oh, wow.
Well, as a parent, I can say that I don't recall ever holding that over the kids in the summer. So I agree. It's sort of, Not until after Thanksgiving that really comes into effect.
Oh, yeah. I think parents kind of forget that Santa exists until it's Christmas time.
Well, I feel very fortunate that we have this study now to verify what I think we've already known. So thank you, Don. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.